A Pittsburgh judge dropped all charges Wednesday against Revis, who was arrested last month after an early morning street fight. The judge decided to dismiss the charges after hearing testimony from one of Revis's childhood friends, who explained that he came to Revis's defense during the altercation and punched two men, both of whom were knocked out. Revis's case remains under review by the NFL for a possible violation of the personal conduct policy, that according to a league spokesman. Meanwhile, Ryan Clark is back. Will Kane is here. Good to see you guys. Will, I want to start with you. What's your reaction to this?
Well, honestly, Molly, it's anger. It's anger over the way we treat these stories. So I think that when you kind of think about yourself, what's one of the things that you fear the most in this world? For me, I think one of the things I fear the most is an angry mob. They're largely brainless, thoughtless, they're reactionary.
Death, but okay.
Well, but the mode of death is a key part of that often. And
how do we get on this subject?
Angry mob of pitchforks. Now, I'll tell you how we got on. Because an angry mob of pitchforks, Max, is one we see more often than not. And what I'm angry about is this: the way we treat this story the day that Darrelle Revis is accused and the day he is exonerated. Now, make no mistake, a charge, being arrested, charged with a crime, is simply a fancy accusation. And when someone is accused of a crime in this country, the media treats it as though it's a conviction. We scream the accusation across newspaper headlines. We talk about it on television. And the day that he's exonerated or his charge is dismissed, it's almost nowhere to be found. And it's a complete and utter travesty because there's real cost. And I feel like when I've been on this program, it's one of the themes I've consistently hit on over and over. Accusations are simply that. Arrests are not much more, and charges not much more than that. And one of the areas we do this the most often, quite honestly, is domestic violence, because we treat these accusations as opportunities to show how virtuous we are. I'm opposed to this. This is awful. When we need to tap the brakes for a moment and find out what's true and what's not. And when it comes to Darrelle Revis, his charge has been dismissed. I can't say he's innocent. I know the difference between not guilty and innocent. I give you OJ. But I'll tell you this. We should be talking about the fact that today he has been cleared. We should be screaming about it, in fact.
In fact, we're doing it as a topic. And I think you're right. And I think the reason here is conflicting interests. The interest of the individual is their reputation. Forget about before you get to the mob with the pitchforks. It's just your reputation is being sullied unfairly oftentimes. And we all thought that. I think there was a strong reaction in the media that, hey, this is not right to do to Revis. Even though it was covered, there were plenty of voices, including Stephen A. and I. We did a whole segment on this show basically saying, hey, wait a minute, this doesn't seem very credible to us that he would do something like this, et cetera, et cetera. But the interest of the media is commercial in this instance, at least the short-term interest. Long-term, you have to worry about credibility also and the erosion of this kind of social norms. But in the short term, we want to, grab eyeballs, clicks, sell papers, and if you splash that across the headlines, you are more likely to attract attention in the short run, and that's in direct conflict with the interests of the individual who are saying, I was merely accused. There is a process legally here.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Well, for me, whenever these type of topics come up, I'm always in a wait-and-see mode. I'm never in the, okay, let's accuse him of doing these things. Let's claim him guilty before we know. Because obviously, being a football player, obviously just being a human, you get into situations that are broadcast or that are covered in ways that are untrue. And in the end, you're glad he's not guilty, but it doesn't change the fact that it's been covered. It doesn't change the fact that his reputation has been sullied. And no matter what the outcome is, and, you hear Will talk about innocent and not guilty, once this accusation is made, once the arrest is made, you'll never be innocent. Right? The media, the public, the mob will never see you as innocent. Though you may be acquitted, though you may be found not guilty, the talk of the public will be, this is a part of your life. This is a part of your legacy. And it is our jobs to cover it. It is our jobs to talk about it. But this will never go away. It won't be erased. It'll never not be a part of Darrelle Revis's story. Now, moving forward, like he said, listen, I don't want to talk about this anymore. This is in my past. I want to move forward and play football. This won't affect the way people see him as a football player because the film is the film. And like you said, he's now not guilty. But this will always be a part of his life story.
I don't have a problem with anything the three of you said, because I agree with it and I found nothing to be to disagree with. What I would say, however, is that I'm a bit disturbed that y'all are pointing the finger at the media instead of some other places that you could have pointed it towards. How about the leagues? How about networks? I mean, let's take into account, let's put things in its proper perspective. Whether it's the NFL, it's Major League Baseball, it's the National Football League, whatever the case may be. What transpires is that Joe Public is patronizing the product. So anytime you have any kind of perceived transgression and they perceive it to be something detrimental to the Shield, then ultimately they're going to react. We can go back to the days of Big Ben Roethlisberger, regardless of what anybody thinks. He wasn't arrested, he wasn't indicted, but Commissioner Roger Goodell suspended him nevertheless. He ultimately reduced the suspension, but there was a suspension that took place even though an arrest never occurred. There have been a bevy of instances, whether it's with Roger Goodell and NFL players, or to lesser degrees things that have transpired in other sports, where we've looked at the league and we've seen them act in their interest, regardless of what the outcome of a case against an individual athlete may have been. We've seen our very own network, along with others. Somebody gets accused of something. Somebody finds themselves in the situation. And then all of a sudden, the heat has been brought to bear. Why? Because, again, you measure the tea leaves, and all of a sudden you see what's going on. You measure the reaction, and sometimes we as a company, we as the fourth estate, engage in overreaction. I'm not saying that the media is not culpable. I'm saying that the media is connected with the leagues, is connected with corporate America, and we tend to do it because in the court of public opinion, that's what folks spend far too much time reacting to. So when we just say the media, we're actually giving others with far more power in terms of dealing with these individual athletes who are victimized. We give the media far too much blame and far too much power, when in fact the institutions that hold dominion over those athletes, over the teams that they play for, et cetera, instigate the process.
I disagree with that. I don't think we give the media enough criticism. I don't think the media is held to account near enough, because it requires self-reflection. It requires a mirror, Stephen A. The league is simply the tail on the dog. Don't wonder why the tail wags. The tail wags because the dog is wagging it. Roger Goodell and the NFL respond to public pressure. Public
Can I
pressure.
Respond to that?
Hold on real quick. I just want to illustrate my point. Public pressure is created by the media. It's done by things like this. You know, Ryan's a member of our media as well now. This is what happens. We're all in this together. This is the New York Post, the day after Darrelle Revis is arrested. This is Revis street fight. New York Daily News, Darrelle hell. New York Post, fighter jet. New York Daily News, I'll be seeing you. Jets must get rid of him after latest thing. Now, where is it today? Pick up either one of them today, and you got 3 words in the corner that says Revis charges dismissed. The point is this, Stephen A. Our job is to find the truth. And I'm not indicting you, Stephen A. Smith, or Max Kellerman. You guys did a great job on this show. It's our job at large to have a backbone and try to find the truth, not show how virtuous we are, and then apply pressure on the league.
Wait.
Just find truth.
Let me respond. Let me respond directly to that. That last headline, you're right. The first 3 were factually correct. Revis wasn't held.
You know the difference. It's 5 inches versus half inch.
No. I'm not debating that. I'm saying, but what was written was it was factually correct. That's number 1. Number 2, I would dare challenge you to remind yourself the difference between the media and the blogosphere, because a lot of times the blogosphere.
This is the newspapers. This is New York newspaper.
In this particular instance, I get what you're saying, but I'm saying for the most part, you're talking about the blogosphere and how the blogosphere throws stuff out there. If you want to blame the media for anything, you can blame the media for reacting to the blogosphere as significantly as it does in this day and age, because you've got newspapers going out of business and trying to stay in business by making sure that they're reacting to the news that's being disseminated.
Yeah, but also, let me jump in here, Stephen A. Let me jump in here,
Sure.
Stephen A., because those are tabloids. And what tabloid means, for those who don't know, it just means how big the font is. When the font is over a certain size, it's called a tabloid. Now, why is it over a certain size? Because it's screaming at you. It's screaming at you. By me is what this is saying. By me. That's really what's happening here. And there, of course, so when you say wagging the dog, commerce wags the dog. Commerce wags the dog, and this is commerce.
Look, if your argument to me is these are the exception, not the rule, you're going to lose that debate.
No,
the tabloids have taken over media. This is not just the tabloids. For whatever's online, for what we do on TV, this is the rule, not the exception. My only argument today is find a backbone and tell truth, not just commerce.
You know what? There is a market for that. There are destinations in the media where people go for the truth, not just to be screamed at and to be yelled at, and they build their brand and make commerce of that.
Even aside from that, here's the thing, right? What happened. You heard Stephen A. talk about these things are factually true. 2 guys were asleep on the side of the street. Darrelle Revis was there. Darrelle Revis was involved in some kind of way, right?
Yes, man knocked him out.
Right. So what happens is you have to, as the media, if we're talking about us, you have to report on that. Now, your opinion and the way you give your thoughts is on you. Right, Will. So if you come on and if you're not claiming Darrelle Revis is guilty right away, you're just saying, here's the incident. Now let us wait. Revis street fight. That's true.
Yeah, but what Will is saying, what Will is arguing is Marshall McLuhan is the medium is the message in this case. The medium is the message, and here, just the fact that it is covered in the way it is by the tabloids suggests guilt to people, makes an imprint on their mind. Whether or not it's factually true, the packaging tells you everything you need to know.
Reputation, and it's a bit of sensationalism.
And when the facts eventually come out, because responsible people react to that, as we did on the show.
Whispers.
Let's wait till the facts come out.
Yep.
When the facts come out, it's not screening on the front page.
Well, why? Because that's not clickbait.
Because it's not going to sell papers.
Right. Commerce
wags the dog.
Let's also remember, and the reason why I brought up the blogosphere, and it's not to disrespect them because there's plenty of quality bloggers out there, but the reality is simple. There's a process that you have to go through in order to be a journalist. Like, for example, I sit up here and I give my opinion with you guys every day. But let's remember the fact that I was a newspaper reporter for 20 years, that I've been a professional journalist for almost a quarter of a century, that back in the day, before the advent of social media, before the advent of .com, you had to pound the pavement and work your way up from high school through college to the pros as a beat writer, as you know, on a high school, college, and pro level before you even had a license to editorialize and opine and give your opinions. So when I sit up here as Stephen A., everybody can talk about the mouth that roars all they want to in terms of First Take, Sports Center, or beyond. But what cannot be denied is look at my resume and then look at a blogger or look at most people in this industry and they don't have my resume or my credentials. But what you do have, you can go out of an airport and at any given moment, you got TMZ, and there's usually some kid holding a camera in your face, asking you a question or whatever.
TMZ has a very good reputation based on experience of getting it right. TMZ, when they report, are usually right. They're very credible as a result of their work.
Wait, Mac. Who said they wasn't? I didn't say that. I didn't disrespect TMZ. I'm just making the point that there are individuals out there in the blogosphere and beyond that didn't work their way through the minefield to get to a point where they have the license to editorialize. That obligation has been stripped. The industry has diluted to such a degree that you damn near could come straight out of high school. And if you got a camera or a microphone and you could get a quote from somebody, all of a sudden you're considered an individual that has credibility. That's a bigger problem. And it's far too big to discuss on this show.
I appreciate your original sentiment and obviously having the visual with it.
But we're doing it. This is a responsible thing to do on the days.
No question. But I want to talk about